Hey, what is going on? Price discrimination. Yes. So when we look at different markets, we have a perfectly competitive market where the products are homogeneous, there's no barriers to entry. Then we move up to a monopolistic competitive market, which is still very close to a perfectly competitive market. The main difference is a monopolistic competitive market is able to product differentiate. So they don't just sell apples, but they'll sell organic apples. They'll sell apples from Ecuador. They'll sell small apples, big apples, green apples, red apples. They differentiate. By differentiating, the demand curve stops being a flat horizontal demand curve like a perfectly competitive market, but instead it's a downward sloping curve. So other ways of differentiating are through price discrimination. And we're going to learn about first, second, and third degree. So first degree price discrimination. We look at our diagram, price, quantity. We have a downward sloping demand curve for the firm in this instance because they are able to differentiate. So by lowering the price, people will buy more of that product. Now, so first degree assumes that they can sell the product at the price that you're willing to pay. So normally we have an equilibrium where supply crosses demand. So we have our equilibrium quantity and our equilibrium price. So if I'm willing to buy a product, I will buy it at that equilibrium price. However, maybe I am willing to pay more for it. Maybe instead of paying the equilibrium price, I was willing to pay price one up here, a higher price. But in the market where demand and supply meet, I'll end up paying a lower price. So hence, that difference between what I am willing to pay and what I end up paying is the consumer surplus. You know, I could have paid £100, but I didn't pay £100. I only paid £10 because that is the equilibrium price. So I am better off by £40. So all that is consumer surplus. Now, first degree price differentiation, what tells us is that they're going to charge me what I'm willing to pay. So if I was willing to pay £100, well, guess what? I end up paying £100 instead of the original, 40 or £50 that it was. How do they do that? Well, first degree price discrimination was almost thought of as theoretical because how can firms know what you're willing to pay for something, how desperate you are for it, right? Especially for every individual. Well, yes, it's still impossible, but now through mining data, through gathering data from your mobile phone, the computer, your history of purchases, they're able to discriminate and they're able to personalize prices. So in some instances, it's been seen in businesses that are able to discriminate and charge you what you are willing to pay depending on how often has he been searching for this item, or what device he's using, where do they live. So that is a first degree price discrimination, when they charge you what you're willing to pay. So hence, all this consumer surplus gets eroded away, disappears. So we'll take it out of our diagram there. So hence, there's no equilibrium price. Instead, what happens is they'll just charge you whatever you're willing to pay. So the marginal revenue, instead of diverting from the demand curve, it follows the demand curve, the marginal revenue, because they'll sell at the price you're willing to pay, which is fantastic because that means that there is, for the producer, is fantastic because it all becomes producer surplus. There's no surplus for the consumer because he doesn't benefit at all. If it's an emergency and you need to go to Spain and you're willing to pay £1,000 for a ticket because your best friend's getting married and you gotta be there. Well, guess what? That's what you're gonna have to pay. Rather than paying the normal price or the equilibrium price that could have been £50 a ticket, you end up paying £1,000. Can you imagine that? Yes, quite shocking. Well, that's why I guess such a thing hasn't quite happened yet, but we're slowly moving in that direction the more we shop online and if we're not careful with our data. right? So that is first degree price discrimination. Now, second degree price discrimination is a little bit different. Again, we have our demand curve here, and we have our price, our quantity. Now, the best example for second degree price discrimination would be something that has a fixed cost and a very low variable cost. So take, for example, let's go with plane tickets. So there's a fixed cost, which is the plane and the permit, I guess, to depart, go back in. And then the variable cost for every person is printing the tickets and some food. So hence the variable cost for, let's say, we can get up to 100 people in that plane, quantity 1 for 100 people, 100 units. This also is our marginal cost. Is the extra cost every single time we get another person in that plane. Now you can see it's a flat line there, and it's quite low because it's for every single person is exactly the same, a meal and another meal and another meal, so it doesn't really increase. However, once it reaches the full capacity of the plane of 100 people, then we put a line upwards because we cannot go beyond it. So those are the assumptions. So you can think also of a theater, it has a maximum capacity of 100 people, and every person that purchases a ticket, the variable cost will be, I guess, to print those tickets. So hence also the marginal cost stays the same. It does not change. Right, so how do we discriminate? Well, let me show you. We discriminate by number one is, there'll be another line here, and that is our marginal revenue, the extra revenue we gain every time we make a sale, which diverts from the demand line, and we apply our profit maximizing rule. So first of all, we know that it's when marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So our marginal cost line equals our marginal revenue line at this point. So out of the total 100 tickets, the first, let's say it looks like 50 tickets here, 50 units, we'll put that quantity 2. Are going to be sold. We kind of going upwards to see what the price per unit will be once it hits our demand curve. So price 2 there, they'll be sold at that price, and that's when we profit maximize. We have the biggest difference between total cost, total revenue. However, there are tickets that are not going to be sold. So what do? Well, in that case, once we've sold all those tickets at that high price, profit maximizing, we then lower our prices. So price 3 here. And the price drops because, again, it's following our demand curve. Our demand curve is sort of willing and able people to pay, and what price are they willing to pay. So up to this amount are willing to pay this high price, but then nobody else is willing to pay that price. So in order to sell the remaining tickets, they lower the price, again, where they meet marginal cost with the demand, and to sell the remainder of the tickets. So therefore, we will have a full plane or a full theater. So the advantages are, number one, well, we have profit maximize with some of our tickets, and the remaining tickets, we still sell them to gain some revenue from them. And well, if you intuitively think of it, if the plane is going to take off in a couple of days, you might as well fill the empty seats and get some revenue from it, even though you might not be profit maximizing. So what does this leave us with? Well, number one is this bit here is the consumer surplus. And you can see that by charging at a profit maximizing point, the consumer surplus has reduced, and there's only that little triangle there. However, we have another area of consumer surplus, and this is for the people who bought it later on at a lower price. You know, I'm sure we have all benefited from, I'm still in that line, from those late lastminute.com purchases at a much lower price. So here we have some more consumer surplus. So that's second degree price discrimination. When we, I guess, profit maximize by selling some tickets at the profit maximizing point, marginal revenue equals marginal cost, and then we will lower the price to sell the remaining tickets, leaving us with 2 points of consumer surplus and exploiting the market. So the third degree price discrimination. Now that's the easiest of them. That's when we sell exactly the same product, but we sell it in two different markets. Take, for example, books, right? So we have our price, our quantity. Let's go another market here, price and quantity. So this is online, and this is, I guess, a physical shop. Physical shop. So when you look at online, the sale of books is very competitive. So we have almost a very elastic demand curve. So a small change in price is going to make a big change in the quantity demanded. So if we increase our prices, let's say just by a little bit, we are going to lose a lot of customers. There we go. We increase the price from P1 up to P2. Only a little bit. You can see a more than proportionate loss in the amount of customers. So we're unlikely to put our price up. Now, when we're looking at the same product, but in this case, we're not selling the books online. We're selling them at a big library or a big bookshop like Foyles. The demand curve is more inelastic. So hence, they're willing to put the price up, and they want to lose that many customers. So we can see here Q1, Q2. So the decrease in customers is less than proportionate to the increase in price from P1 up to P2. So it's beneficial for the bookstore, the physical bookstore, to put the prices up, but not online. It'll be the same product, the same book, but online, people are very price sensitive, so they can't put the prices up. Unlike a physical shop, they can put the prices up because people are less sensitive to price, and they're buying it because of other reasons. Maybe they want to have the book there and then. Maybe they're there in the bookstore and they don't want to go to another bookstore looking for another book. These are my assumptions. But the idea behind third degree price discrimination is that you sell the same product in two different markets, and both different markets, you might sell it at a different price. And the main reason is because the elasticities are different in both markets. And that is, in a nutshell, first degree, second degree, and third degree price discrimination. Thank you.